Well, the family of Tumelo Mothotoane who was found dead after a bullying incident wants justice. Police say the 15-year-old arrested for her assault will be dealt with in terms of the Child Justice Act. So what does this then mean for child perpetrators? Let's find out from expert on child law, Simba Chitando, who joins us now all the way from Pretoria. Mr. Chitando, thank you so much for your time and good morning to you. I mean, we have a special focus today on school bullying, and in this incident, it is alleged that bullying of course, has resulted to a young minor committing suicide, Tumelo Mothotoane, in Thohoyandou in Limpopo. I wanted to know, according to the Child Justice Act, I mean, what are some of the legal consequences for the 15-year-old perpetrator who's been reported to have been arrested?
Many thanks for inviting me onto your show, and greetings to your viewers. This is obviously a very sad case. Minors involved. Your question is, what are the potential consequences? Obviously, at this stage, or at least I have not seen the charges, so it's hard for us to anticipate what the child is being actually accused of. In the case of bullying, as you know, there could be various charges, intimidation, that possibly led to the unfortunate incident. But it's important for us to look at the Child Justice Act to see what the capacity is. In the case of a child that's under 10, there is no criminal capacity. From under 15, the state has to prove that the child has the ability to appreciate their actions, and above the age of 15, in a case like this, which I believe the child is above 15, then the child can be arrested and there can be proceedings brought against the child. But the Child Justice Act does differentiate between the treatment of a child and the treatment of an adult in a case like this.
Right. And speaking about, charges being laid against a minor, I want to go through the process then. Let's speak generally as well for children that have been arrested for acting against the law. What is usually the process taken off? You've already taken us through the age capacity. It's quite different for that of an adult. But usually then what occurs after that?
Yes. Well, in a case of a child who has been accused of a criminal offense, the Act is very clear. The Child Justice Act is quite clear that the police treat the child who has been accused of a crime very, very differently. The Act says that the police are expected to provide special treatment for children in the system. There's an assessment of the child. There's experts that would obviously interview the child. They conduct an assessment considering the seriousness of the offense and also considering the circumstances of the crime, what happened, or the alleged incident or the alleged crime that led to this incident. Again, we have to be mindful. I'm very careful not to assume any criminal liability at this stage. It's still early days. So what the process is, there's an assessment, and the experts who assess the child would obviously work with the NPA, the prosecutors involved, and they will collect a docket and decide the best course of action to take, considering the age of the child and the circumstances.
Right. Because we do understand that, the arrest is quite recent, and the charge as well has just been officiated quite recently. I think this conversation is more for clarity and understanding for our viewers in terms of educating them on what to expect when children are involved in, criminal acts against the law, not necessarily with this particular case, but quite generally. So I want to ask you, for clarity's sake, how does then sentencing work after a minor has been convicted? It may not be this particular case because Tumelo Mothotoane's perpetrator has not, been convicted of any crime at this stage. But generally speaking, Mr. Chitando, in a sentencing of a minor, or rather conviction of a minor, when sentencing options are, about to be provided, What are some of those options that are considered?
In a case like this, generally for minors, the courts normally seek to place the child in a youth care center. That is normally that's what the Act says, Section 29 of the Act. The presiding officer, if the child is convicted of a criminal offense, that is what would happen. The courts may consider the age and the maturity of the child. Every child is different. I think your question is generally what happens, what does the public expect? The public can expect the presiding officer to treat every case differently for every specific child, every specific incident. So the age and the maturity of the child will be taken into consideration. The seriousness of the offense, the risk that the child may be a danger to himself or herself in the future at the child and youth care center. So for instance, if there's a risk that if the child is sentenced for criminal conviction, they will look at whether she or he would be a problem in the youth care center. And then they'll obviously look at the appropriateness of the security for both the child and the other people, the other children at the youth care center.
All right, well, we leave it there. Well, thank you so much.
That is
we have to leave it there, but thank you so much, Simba Chitando, for joining us. Due to time, we have to leave the conversation there. Quite an important one in sort of understanding the legal repercussions and consequences for any minor perpetrators who are found, of course, or alleged to be involved in any law or whether any criminal acts that go against the law. All right, for now.